Every single job that I've gotten has been because I did these things we just talked about.
Hmm.
I made relationships or connections, or I just stood out in some way while I was doing a different job and somebody was like, hey, who are you? You got to come work for us. So
Hmm.
I'm saying this from experience, and I'm saying if you are in a job you hate, your escape plan involves you being strategic and making decisions today. Don't wait until you absolutely can't stand it anymore. Start the process of looking. If you know that you want to make more money or that you're capable of making more money, start the process now. Even if you only mediocre like your job, but you know that the next phase for you is moving on, start doing all of this as soon as possible so that that pipeline and those connections can be filled. Because the worst thing we can do is wait until we lose a job or we don't have a job and we just start like, oh, LinkedIn, job search, Indeed, whatever, and then just start firing off these complacent resumes
Yeah.
to everybody that are just the same. And you're just crossing your fingers. All you're doing is making yourself feel better for a short amount of time, but you're not actually improving your situation at all. I watched the world's worst movie on the airplane.
Oh dear.
I don't even know how long it's been since I've seen a bad movie. Most movies are fairly decent, or there's something cute about them, or they're funny, or maybe I'm just more easily amused because I'm older. I don't know what it is. But they
Okay.
had new releases on the plane. And I was like, okay, well, a lot of them were nothing I was interested in, but I saw a new movie with Richard Gere. I haven't seen him in a long time. That seems like a good movie.
I actually did not know that he was not dead.
Well, he's not. And he's
Okay.
clearly doing movies just for the pay. So bad. Now, at first, I was like, I probably shouldn't spoil this movie for you, so I won't tell everybody the plot. But let me spoil this movie for you so that you don't watch it. It is so bad. It starts off okay. The first couple scenes are great. Richard Gere, I can't remember his name, Daniel or something like that. He plays this wealthy, kind of 60 something year old single bachelor guy.
Okay.
And his ex-girlfriend contacts him on social media or something and says, I want to meet with you. I have to tell you something. So they meet and they haven't seen each other in 20 some years. And she sits across from him and she says, I've never told you this, but I got pregnant and gave birth to a son 19 years ago that was yours. Oh, this movie's so good, right?
Yeah, like that sounds juicy.
I know, so good. Oh, it's going to be like heartfelt and full of things, and he's going to have to process. We're going to go on a journey. And it turns out, now, if you want to watch this movie, if you want to watch the world's worst movie, just skip ahead because I'm about to blow the whole thing for you right now. So the son passes away. He's dead. She's coming to tell him this now. So he doesn't know what to make of this. He's trying to process all the pieces together. And the whole time you're being introduced to these characters that have nothing to do with the actual point of the movie. Next thing you know, he's having dinner with his son that he didn't know he had, best friend, who's like, I heard you're rich and I was best friends with your son for many years. I need you to give me $5,000 because I owe it to a drug dealer. And he's like, I have to think about this. You know what I mean? But you don't hear from that kid ever again. It's never resolved. It's like talking to somebody with ADHD. You're like, what is the point of this conversation? I don't get it. It keeps going in 16 directions. So, okay, maybe he'll come back in the movie later. Never does. So then he goes and he meets somebody else. You're going through this whole process and this whole journey. And at some point, you realize the boy was dating another girl, but he had a crush on his French teacher. So then there's this whole thing where he goes to meet the French teacher and he finds all these poems that the boy's written about the French teacher. And then there's a scene, I do not know what happened, but I'm sitting on an airplane watching on a tablet. I'm trying to shield my tablet from my neighbors around
Oh,
me because the
uh-oh.
French teacher is now suddenly 300 times the size of a regular human and on top of the school and on the school. I know, your
It's
face.
not where I thought you were even going to go with
I
that.
know, I know. And then there's this whole thing where you realize then the teacher had a restraining order. It's this whole complicated, awful thing. And so you're like, okay, there's going to be a point. He's going to feel differently about having a kid or something's going to happen. Then you go down this whole other path with the girl that he was dating at the time. He was in love with the teacher and doing things with the teacher. And then we find out she's pregnant. Oh, here's the point now, right? So then he's trying to convince the girl to keep the baby. She doesn't want to keep the baby. Oh, it was so exhausting. So he's basically like, listen, I've never had the opportunity to have any lineage. This is my chance. So then he's interrupting this girl's life and trying to convince her not to have this abortion, and you're going through all these feelings of what's the right thing to do. And in the end, you're not going to see this coming. Whatever you think I'm about to say, you're going to be surprised. They decide to marry off their dead son to this other family whose daughter committed suicide, and they have a wedding for the two dead children. They matchmake them, and that's the end.
What?
I know. There's no point to this movie.
I have so many questions. How is that even a thing that can happen?
I'm telling you, it is the most ridiculous. I was so mad when I was watching it, and Jared kept looking over at me. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm angry." And I was giving the tablet the middle finger because I was so mad. He's like, "Why don't you just DNF?" Which we always use if we have a bad book or a bad slice of pizza. Do not finish, just
Yeah.
abandon. The problem is, I'm now 45 minutes into this flight, and I don't have time now to start a new movie. So I just tortured myself and watched this whole thing. It is the worst piece of cinema. So then I was excited because I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go online when I get to the hotel. I'm going to find other people that hate this movie, and I'm going to just read the comments. I'm going to feel vindicated.
Yeah.
And people loved it.
No, they didn't. No, they did not.
All the artsy people loved it. So I must have missed some poetic license along the way. I must have taken it too literally. I don't know what happened. But anyway, it is the world's worst movie.
Did you miss a plot point because you were too busy with your airplane pretzels?
I must have, but none of it linked up at the end. Because you know when Mike Birbiglia does stand up, he takes you on a
Yeah.
story over here and a story over here. And
Yeah.
if you ever want to hear the most amazing storytelling, watch anything of Mike Birbiglia's on Netflix. His stand up is genius. You're on all these different tangents, but at the end, they come together in a bow. And you're
Beautiful
like,
package.
it is. It's amazing. So I kept thinking, okay, maybe they're Mike Birbiglia-ing me. They were. I went to two dead people's wedding. They didn't even consent. You know what I mean? They don't even get to choose. It was so weird. And
Okay,
it was
well,
like,
good. I'm glad
man,
you've saved us. You've saved us now, and now we don't have to watch this. And what was it called?
longing.
Oh, I feel like I did see this movie trailer because, as you know, my husband watches a lot of movie trailers. So I do feel like I watched the movie trailer. I was very on the fence about it. So now I'm off the fence.
You off the fence. Yeah.
Did you see this thing that was posted recently that Netflix should do? Somebody had like this brilliant idea for Netflix when you were talking about the DNF idea. I
Yeah.
think it's so genius that they should have that as a Netflix setting, forget about it setting, so that it's not now going to send you other, because you watched this movie.
Yeah. Or part
Like,
of
is
the
it going to
movie.
send you other artsy movies that you're going to hate?
I don't know. I generally love artsy movies. It's just
Okay.
this one, which I didn't think was artsy until the internet told me I missed the point.
Oh, Lord. So did the internet tell you what the point was?
No, nobody knew the point. Then I thought maybe this is one of those giant jokes. And maybe what we should be doing is telling everybody, oh, you know what the best movie is? And tell them to go watch it and then wait and see if they say anything to us. Like, yeah, it was so bad. I would love if you've watched it. I would love to hear. We'll put a link to the voicemail and you can tell me what I missed or connect the dots for me somehow or other. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more?
More
Of this?
what? What do I want more of?
More of this. Come
Oh.
hang out in the online course, Forget the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there. So you know what Richard Gere needs to do?
Yeah.
Needs to look for a better job.
Acting's not it anymore.
Don't know. Or he needs to hire somebody who can read scripts ahead of time for him or something. So
Richard Gere.
disappointing.
Yeah, well, because you went in expecting like Pretty Woman and you got Train Spotting. Don't come at me about Train Spotting, people. Don't.
We're going to talk about how to escape from your job if you absolutely hate your job.
Hmm.
And have you ever worked a job that you hated? You always seem to be very happy in all of your jobs.
Yeah, like once I went to school and became trained, all of those jobs were amazing, more than amazing, brilliant, awesome, my favorite things ever. Like, I don't have any regrets on any of those. But yes, my very first job ever, I had to work in my friend's restaurant.
Mm.
And before you could become a server at the restaurant, you had to pay your dues, as they say, and wash dishes.
Right.
I had to wash dishes in the morning, 5 a.m., and scrape eggs off of people's plates before putting them in like that big industrial dishwasher.
Yeah.
So first of all, as a teenager, I had to get out of bed early. And then second of all, I had to scrape disgusting food off of plates. I'm not sure if you know me, but that is not something I like to do in general. I don't
I was
like to
gonna say
clean my
now you
own.
do all of that for free.
Oh, yeah, right? Exactly. Cleaning up after these humans all the time. But when it's a stranger, it's worse. It's
Yeah,
worse.
it
Like,
is weird.
I don't want to see your jam and ketchup smear. I don't want any of that. I don't want it. So, yeah, I really hated that job.
I remember once you had a really bad boss. Well, technically, I had the bad boss too, but I didn't have as much interaction. So that was challenging. They say that you are more likely to leave a job, not because of the actual job, but because of your supervisor, if you don't have a great supervisor. But I think there are a lot of people stuck in jobs that they hate. And we see this a lot in our community because when you have a lot of consumer debt, you really do get trapped. You get trapped in relationships you don't want to be in. You get trapped in jobs that you don't want to be in, but because of the weight of the debt, oftentimes it feels like you can't make a move
We can't get out because we have to stay because we've got bills to pay.
because you got bills to pay. So we're going to make an escape plan today. So first things first, you're going to make a list of your dream companies or dream employers. That's really important to do. You sort of go like, what is the type of company that I want to work for? And you're going to do your research. So it's not just about like going on Glassdoor and seeing what former disgruntled employees think about the place, but it's about understanding what their culture is about. And you have to go deeper than what they post on the internet because everything that they put on their own website is simply PR. You got to look at the quality of the employees' lives. I know a lot of people who think, working for such and such a company would be such a dream because of the image that company portrays. And then you find the workers are exhausted or they're bitter or they're gossipy or they're miserable or they're changing every 6 months. And so that will tell you more than what the company's about page will tell you.
Hmm.
But you're going to do your research while you're looking at your list. And I would avoid pros and cons list. I'm generally not a fan of pros and cons lists anyway, because they're not properly weighted. So pros and cons list doesn't matter. You're going to go with facts. So what kind of people does this company typically hire? Where do the employees hang out? What do they do for fun? Where's the headquarters? Do people work remotely? What is the kind of structure of how people engage with the company and how do they make the company money? And then you can figure out like what the employees do for fun or where they hang out. Like if they all go to a certain pub on the Friday, guess what you're going to do?
Yeah, great idea.
Can you imagine? Remember back in the MTV days, we'd go to music trivia night?
You'd like name that tune?
Name that tune. Name that tune. Music trivia night. Am I 100?
No,
I
your
used,
brain just not working. It's fine. I got you.
I used to look at like women who were, like my grandma's age, and it would take six of them to form one sentence. They'd be like, so and so, and they'd be like, Bert, yeah, his wife, and they're like Marjorie, and then they'd all like pitch in. That's what I feel like we're doing right now. Can you imagine how cool it would have been to walk into Name That Tune when we would all be there? You'd be like, I want to work with these people. We were a really fun group, and our culture was really amazing at MTV Canada. But it would have given you a good sense of what the people are like. And if you're a very serious, structured person, you would not have fit in with the culture at MTV Canada. It just wouldn't have made sense. Much like if you maybe want to work for a certain engineering firm and you're very structured and you like to wear shirts that are well pressed and everything's buttoned up really well and you like order and structure, you would walk into that MTV Name That Tune night and you'd be like, I'm out of here. These are not my people. But that's important to know because culture fit is critical when hiring.
Hmm.
Unconsciously, people will hire based on culture fit more over than what's in your resume. And that's really important to know. So you're going to get where the employees are. You're going to figure out who they are. You're going to network with the employees. And if you can build relationships, now, not those kind of social climbing relationships, but build like real relationships with people who work at the companies you want to work for by networking or going to the same conventions or events that they go to meet people. That's going to be the biggest bang for your buck in the long term versus firing out 100 resumes online and crossing your fingers and waiting for a response. People don't realize that they're hiring for culture, but it's one of those things where like when a prospective employee walks into the boardroom to do the interview, it's everything from the way you dress to the way you sit to the way you speak that gets you hired. They'll certainly ask you questions about what's on your resume, But overall, if it's a small business who doesn't have a massive HR department who's doing all this work for you, Sally is going to be like, I really liked Keri's vibe. I thought she was really great. I'd like to work with her. And so, because it's easy for the two of you to get along in that interview, it's going to be easy for them to hire you and they're going to believe that you're going to be a good fit. So, all of those little subtle things are really important. You want to dress the way the employees dress, you want to speak the way they speak. You want to use the words that they would use. And if the culture is very polite and formal, you want to be polite and formal. If the culture is very casual, you want to be casual. Now, I know that there's people listening who are like, I just want to be me and I want to get hired for me. That's great. You can wait as long as you
Yeah.
want. I'm telling you, if you are in a job you hate and you want a new job, you got to play the game. It's all a game. So you got to get in the orbit of the people who are already working at the places you want to work. You got to know who they know. And again, I want to point this out, not in a creepy social climber way.
Right.
And I say this because I had this person in my orbit for the longest period of time who was one of those people who name dropped, like gravity was taking a hold of everything that came out of their mouth. Honest to goodness. It just feels gross. And they would use people to get closer to other people. And they were very slick and very finger gun winky type personality. And eventually I realized they were only ever contacting me when they needed something. Like this wasn't an actual relationship. This was a, hey, I know you and I know you know so and I need to get to so and so. So can you make a connection? Like that's so gross.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
So gross. So I had to like eliminate that person and the people they were associated with from my friend circle because it was just so life sucking and life draining and they weren't adding any value.
Mm-hmm.
I've had other people who are just amazing people with the heart to serve. They're kind, they're positive, they work hard, they get involved, they have conversations, they send articles that I might like or books that I might like, or they contribute amazing content to our online community, for example, or like they're just wonderful people with the heart of service.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have naturally then gone, you know what? I know so and so's hiring. I would really like to see you on that team. Let me make a connection for you. There's a big difference between those two scenarios. So when I'm saying get in their orbit and do all that, I'm not saying use them to get to the next place. I'm saying show up and provide value and just be somebody who's really amazing in community with other people so that people want to do business with you and want to help you.
Yeah, your relationship can't be about what you're getting out of it. You genuinely have to care about the people, I think, to get you to the places that you want to be.
Yeah. The next thing we got to do is we have to understand the gap. So what's weird is resumes are all about you, but
Right.
the ticket is to make your resume about them. So you
Right.
have to know what you bring to the table, but you also have to know what gap they're hiring for and how you uniquely can fill it. So rather than I can type 140 words per minute, I won this award, these are all my credentials, you would say things like, I will be able to help you get your profits from X to X by employing these skills that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I will be able to get you these results with this experience that's in my back pocket. So making your resume not about you, but about the employer, it's a tiny, tiny, like 3-degree shift, but it will make the difference.
There was something that I had come across like years ago when I was working on a resume once. And one of the things they said to do was actually do a word search for how many times you use the word I versus the amount of times you use the word you.
That's powerful.
Big time.
Yeah, because I makes it all about self. And when
Yep.
you're saying you, it's like, here's how I can help you in the company. I think this is so important. You have to understand how you connect to the profits. And I know I've talked about this
Yeah.
before, and this is
Yes.
harsh. This is so harsh. People hate hearing this. You think you're worth more than you are.
Yeah.
I think I'm worth more than I am. So I'm saying this, I'm not saying this to Keri, like I'm not saying you think you're worth, I'm saying we all think we're worth more than we are. And unless we understand how we directly and uniquely help our employer profit, we are replaceable.
Mhm.
There is nothing special about, I hate to say this because people hate hearing this. They're like, but I've been at that job. I've given them 30 years of my life. They'll take 30 years of your life. They'll take another 30 years of your life. But if somebody comes along and can do the job even slightly better for less money, you're gone. With the rare exception of sometimes, there's really amazing small employers out there who care about people and who are doing it for a much more holistic reason. But generally, businesses are in business so that they can profit. And if your business doesn't profit, you don't have a job anyway. If your company goes
Mhm.
under, you don't have a job. So you have to understand how you connect to the profits. And I've had people say, in different companies that I've owned, they've said, well, I'm going to come work for you and I'm dying to work for your organization and I'm worth this amount of money. And I'm like, well, not to me, you're not. Because
Mm.
right now our business is in this stage and I need to get to this stage. And if I start to pay you twice what I'm paying other employees, and you can't tell me in your resume or in the interview how you're going to connect me to the profits that are going to get me there, why would I pay you that amount of money? I'm going to go under.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you were paid that before at the last job you were let go of doesn't mean you're worth that. You have to understand also why you were let go. If the company wasn't profiting, how were you contributing to that or not contributing to that? I know it's so harsh, it's so ugly. People don't want to think that way. But when you can help sort of the company make money, you now are indispensable. If
Mm-hmm.
you're the magic that's helping that company profit, you're going to succeed. So you have to understand that little bit too. So even if your job has nothing to do with sales, I know sometimes people are like, "Oh, I hate when she talks about this because I don't want to, I just want to go in, go to my cubicle, punch my time clock and leave." But even if you're working like an admin type position or you're answering the phones, if you can do something that's above and beyond that connects to the profits, you're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So we've even had in different companies that I've worked with or owned or been a part of, we've put different incentives into the compensation plan so that if the company directly starts to profit as a result of you and your work, you're getting a bigger cut of the pie. So we've had situations where like a company's been taken over, a receptionist has been there earning X amount of dollars for years, been in the role for a long time, very happy. And suddenly now she's understanding how she's helping the company make more money. When somebody walks in, she gets up from the desks and welcomes them. She takes their coat instead of just being like, yeah, we'll be right with you. Have a seat on her little computer, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
paying attention. If a dude is a door greeter and, he's just like holding the door open for people and saying, hi, welcome, hi, welcome. But if he's like, oh my gosh, I love your rain boots today or something. You know what I mean? There's like a different flavor, a different level, a different customer experience that you're now directly affecting by your awesomeness, your extra welcoming. So those little tiny white glove touches, especially when your organization is working on systemization and efficiency, those little touches will stand out in such a way that now you're indispensable.
Mm-hmm.
Those help you earn more money. Those help you get the hell out of debt faster, and those help you build wealth faster. Those tiny little things that you can do, even if you feel like they're unnoticed. Because what's cool is they might not even be noticed by your employer, but they might be noticed by a competitor who will then hire you. They might be noticed by a customer who will
Mm-hmm.
then submit your name to head office for something. You just never know. And so I just think going above and beyond in every little area that you can really makes a big difference on how you are actually related or connected to the overall picture, which then increases the value in the workplace.
I think you can make it into a game a little bit. That's what I did. Remember when I worked for the circus for that summer?
Yep. This is true
And
story. I know you're probably like, did she just say circus? She sure did.
listen, I wasn't like the contortionist in the show, people. I mean, I am bendy, but not that bendy. I worked at the concierge desk and I didn't even really know what that meant when I went there. Like this show was passing through the city, and on a whim, I was like, I'm going to go do this and just see what this job is all about. So I went and worked at the concierge desk, which turns out to be just a sales position. And all it is upselling people that come to the desk that want like a better seat. And then I tell them how they can get a better seat for a lot more money. But I made it a game. It was just totally a game to see if I could connect with these people to get them to then pay the money to go to these seats. And it was super fun if you think of it like that.
Yeah. And truthfully, you're giving them a better experience. So really, like whenever I get a chance to go, I know this is like, I hate talking about this. This is my privilege showing. I'm so sorry. I've sat in the nosebleeds long enough in my life. I've earned my keep in the nosebleeds. But now I love to sit, as you know, front three rows of everything.
Erin sits at the front. You will do whatever you can in your power to get the best seats available.
It's why I haven't gone to the Eras tour yet. It's the only reason. I will fly anywhere in the world, but I want in the first three rows. Okay.
Right.
I
Yeah,
want
that's
one
very
of her
tricky.
sparkles to hit me in the face when she shimmies with her butt. That's what I want. Otherwise, I'm not going. But when we go see comedians, we sit in the front row. When we
Mhm.
go to concerts, we sit in the front row. Remember when we went to Celeste Barber and we were like right in the front row and we could put our feet on the stage, but you get a different perspective from up there. There's nothing wrong with being in the back. You still have an amazing experience. The crowd in the back is very different than the crowd in the front. Like they're more
Yeah.
fun. You're connecting in community. If you're an extrovert, that's where you want to be. But what I loved, especially when we went to see Jerry Seinfeld and we sat in the front, remember when he came out, I was like, he's nervous. Like we could see him
Totally.
shaking. And we had
Yes.
friends that were like 12 rows back. And I was like, did he look nervous to you? They were like, no, he was like I'm like, we saw him sweating. We saw like just a whole different experience. So
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of sitting in the front. So I just wanted to say to you, when you're talking about upgrading people to the seats, it is a different experience. It's a more elevated experience, a more connected experience with the person that you're going to see. So I think you did them a favor. It's not always about upselling. Sometimes it's about the whole picture. Anyway, the next thing that you need to start doing is you have to start applying before there is a job post. You want to
Mm.
make yourself known to the employer before they have a need, and you want to make them known to the employer in a creative but professional way. You want to make yourself known to the employer so that they already know they've got a candidate in the wings if they have to make a move with an existing employee. Now, some of you are going to say, yeah, but what if they make you apply online or whatever? Nobody makes you apply online. If you know the right person and you have their email and you can build a compelling case, or you can get them on the phone without being disruptive or taking up too much of their time or being disrespectful. But if you can build a relationship in a really great way before there's a need and provide value before you even work there, you're going to kill it. One of
Hmm.
my favorite people, my good friend Carissa, when she wanted to work for a world-class organization that she wanted to work for in sales, she was like, I believe I'm the best person for this job. And I believe that I'm in the top 1% of salespeople in the world. And so she said, to prove this to you, I'm going to give you a list of 50 leads that I've looked up in your area. And here are all the phone numbers and all, like she did all the research and she handed them the list of 50 leads. She's like, now I'll call them for you if you hire me and I will do all this for you. But if you don't want to hire me, you can give this to the top salesperson in your organization and make their life easier. But I believe these people are the right fit for you. And here's why. And here's what I would do. And here's how I would pitch them. And they hired her, of course. And she went on
Yeah.
to make very, very good money in that organization for a long period of time. But she went above and beyond and added value to the company before she even worked there so she could demonstrate how she was going to improve their profits. And she sure did.
Hmm. I can't even count the number of resumes that I've looked at over the years where people have clearly not even read the job description
Mhm.
because their cover letter, their resume, nothing is geared towards the job that I've actually posted. And there is nothing more frustrating as someone that's hiring than someone that's just wasting your time. They're wasting their time too. It's like, are you actually interested in this? Because you're showing zero interest. You
Mhm.
just have to go like that tiny bit above and beyond because just assume that there is 100 resumes
Yeah.
that have been in the inbox or sitting in someone's desk, and you have to stand out somehow. Like it could be as little. I used to tell some people this when I was coaching some people on resumes, which you've done too, right?
Mhm.
Is that even just print some logos on your resume and have it printed in color so that it's not just black and white piece of paper that's sitting on the desk. It doesn't take much, right? Just a tiny little bit of extra effort to make yourself stand out.
Yeah. I've made really crazy resumes, as you know. We've talked about
Yes.
on podcasts in the past. So I've done some
Yeah.
really crazy stuff to stand out. But in the end, every single job that I've gotten has been because I did these things we just talked about.
Mhm.
I made relationships or connections, or I just stood out in some way while I was doing a different job and somebody was like, hey, who are you? You got to come work for us. So
Mhm.
I'm saying this from experience, and I'm saying if you are in a job you hate, your escape plan involves you being strategic and making decisions today. Don't wait until you absolutely can't stand it anymore. Start the process of looking. If you know that you want to make more money or that you're capable of making more money, start the process now. Even if you only mediocre like your job, but you know that the next phase for you is moving on, start doing all of this as soon as possible so that that pipeline and those connections can be filled. Because the worst thing we can do is wait until we lose a job or we don't have a job and we just start like, oh, LinkedIn, job search, Indeed, whatever, and then just start firing off these complacent resumes
Yeah.
to everybody that are just the same and you're just crossing your fingers. All you're doing is making yourself feel better for a short amount of time, but you're not actually improving your situation at all. So Richard Gere, what you need to do